A lot of things went wrong for the Minnesota Vikings on Sunday night, but who do we actually blame for it, and how can we expect it to get better? Welcome to the Locked On Vikings podcast.
You are Locked On Vikings, your daily Minnesota Vikings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Locked On Vikings podcast, where we're always trying to learn something new. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And thank you so much for making Locked On Vikings your first listen of the day every single day. I appreciate my hashtag everydayers so very much. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Today on the show, it's Town Hall Tuesday. That means I'm answering your questions as submitted to me in the Google Doc that you can find in the show notes to this or any other podcast episode. So if you have a question or a hot take that you want to confess to me anonymously, drop it in the show notes. Come back next Tuesday. The first question that I am going to answer comes from, just says, sigh. Says, there's been an absurd amount of pressure in JJ's face, whether that be guys losing their reps or unblocked rushers. Whose fault do you think that is? Is it on the O-line as a whole? Is it the center for messing with protections? Is it on JJ for messing with protections or canning out of things that he shouldn't have been? Is it KOC for calling plays that don't give certain linemen help or calling long developing plays? How does this get fixed? And does this get fixed? Okay, so I was curious about this and I did an entire tape study. So if you want to watch film on this, you can go to patreon.com/LukeBrownNFL, but I'll try to give you the Spark notes. There were a couple of patterns that stuck out to me. One was the long developing plays thing. Not necessarily that it's a bad thing to go for shot plays, but you do have to block those up, and there were problems. I'll get to that in a sec. But more so that those were paired with some weird drop back choices. 3-step drop out of shotgun. There were more 3-step drops than I realized in that game, and I think it's because the 3-step drops felt slow. But they were slow because there was no reason to rush it. Everybody's running a 20-yard route. So if everybody's running a 20-yard route, there's no reason to get to the top of your drop super fast. In fact, you kind of don't want to. Think about it. If you're taking a drop back and you get to the top of your drop and you're 9-10 yards behind the line. By the way, the drop depths were a lot more consistent in this game, and I don't think that we can blame that anymore. I think that did kind of get shored up. You can tell they worked on it, which is, by the way, really nice to see. Hey, there was a problem, they fixed it. Other problems happened, but at least there's proof of concept that they have some level of like self-awareness for those little detailed things. But if you are just standing there at 9-10 yards depth waiting for routes to develop, it's a lot harder for the line to hold up, right? They just have to hold up for that much longer. Plus, if you get to that 9-10 yard spot too fast, the edge rusher no longer really has to go through the tackle. They can just tee off right at your location. It's just an angles thing. The deeper you are, the easier an angle that an edge rusher has, especially if they line up wide. So that was a problem. There was a stunt pickup issue for sure. I put it, I think, almost exclusively on the guards. Donovan Jackson more than Will Fries, but Will Fries some. That they just overcommitted to crashers and let loopers come around. So if you don't know what that means, the crasher's the guy that goes first on a stunt. Defensive lineman just isn't really supposed to even try to get to the quarterback. You're just sort of sacrificial and you're launching yourself into a lineman, trying to lure his friend to come help him. And then a looper comes around and attacks the gap that friend just abandoned, right? And you kind of, as the lineman, you can't take the cheese. You have to let that crasher become your friend's problem, and you got to stay at home to take the looper. If you commit your hands, or if you commit your hips, if you commit your upper body too much, then that looper's going to get a free shot at the QB. That happened 4 or 5 times. Like, that happened way too much. So you got to work on stunts. What I didn't find a lot of was, JJ McCarthy looking like he was holding the ball too long in, or like bizarre turn downs, right? Like, I didn't see a ton of, hey, you're looking at that, you should throw it. Why didn't you throw it? Every time I saw something that looked like it was going to be good, unless McCarthy was throwing with almost so much anticipation that it would probably get picked off, like too much anticipation. You still need to give the receiver enough time to get to the spot that's open. So unless he was going to do that, he kind of had to wait And then there was pressure, and then it was all about escapability. I think I found myself blaming him truly once, and I think this was pointed out by a couple of reporters online. There was one where Jalen Naylor would have been open in a corner route for a touchdown if McCarthy didn't bail, and he bailed from a pretty clean pocket, and it turned into a sack because he just ran right by a defender who then went and tackled him. There's nothing the lineman can do about that. That one you put squarely on McCarthy. And the third thing that I noticed is there's a lot of times where guys just don't know what the heck they're doing. They just kind of messed stuff up. Guys wouldn't block the right guys, or they would struggle to sort it out, and you would just get total busts. It's like a coverage bust. Two guys think that they're supposed to get one dude, and another dude is completely unblocked. Somebody messed up, right? And to me, that only happens if people are hearing the wrong words in the huddle. And that's both the most embarrassing thing to happen in week 2, and you probably need to have this down, but also the easiest one to fix. Sometimes it's a verbiage issue. There was a famous one from, I think it was Johnny Munt and Kirk Cousins, where they came out after the game and saw it was some debacle in the red zone. And Johnny Munt just heard the wrong word. It was like one word sounded like another word, and he just heard the wrong word in the huddle because it wasn't quite enunciated perfectly, and they just changed what word they used for that, and it was never a problem again. It can be that easy. But it's definitely an embarrassing thing to have veteran linemen that like don't know who they're supposed to block. And to me, that kind of has to be on the quarterback not relaying the play calls correctly. I can't really think of another explanation for how people would get so confused. He's the guy in the huddle talking. It kind of has to be on him. But we'll move on to the next one, which comes from Michael, who asks, is the Vikings passing game taking too long to develop downfield? Yes, sometimes. If you have a 20-yard route stapled to a 3-step drop back, that means that McCarthy is sitting in the most vulnerable spot on the field, the top of his drop, all the way back for way too long. But the follow-up is this common through the league to be so stuck in one offensive philosophy? And the answer is absolutely. Are you kidding me? Everybody thinks they got the secret sauce in the league. Everybody runs the plays the way they think they should be run, and they aren't going to move off of it. And most people don't know another system. If you asked Sean McVay to run Air Coryell, it'd be a disaster. He didn't know Air Coryell. He didn't grow up in that system understanding the ins and outs of it. Why would you ask him to do that? So yeah, and plus it's not even better. So why would you do that? Right. So yeah, it's pretty common for play callers to stubbornly believe, keep going for what they think works. And for the Vikings who chase explosives all the time, the philosophy is really difficult to argue with because you can fail 6 times and then get a 7th one and it's a touchdown drive. That can kind of happen and it can make you feel rewarded a lot. But I do think that the Vikings need to shorten the routes and resync them with the drop back. You need that timing to be correct. The whole magic of the McVay-Shanahan system that Kevin O'Connell lives in is that routes are breaking at the top of the drop so that the ball can be out immediately at the top of the drop and you minimize the amount of time you're in that vulnerable spot in the pocket. And that's not what's happening here, which is things are fundamentally broken. And some of it too is some of these routes are run a little bit too slow. That's kind of what you get when you're relying on Thielen. Maybe that'll be better when Addison's back. Brad says, the broadcast highlighted Penix's quick release. I couldn't help but notice the stark contrast to JJ's long throwing motion. Is this a long-term concern? I think it's a critique for sure. Yeah, I think it's a valid one. This is a critique I actually had of Penix coming out of college. And it's way different now. His release looks a lot tighter and cleaner. They've done a lot of great work in Atlanta on that. So good for them. That's awesome. And I think that's turning Penix into a very respectable kind of quarterback that's get the ball out quick and be a point guard is so annoying to defend. And you can make some really efficient offenses with that really, that plunge the ball down the field with a lot of consistency. And if Penix can be the kind of quarterback that has that consistency, it opens you up for a lot of opportunities to stuff and a really nice floor as an offense. And I know it sounds like I'm giving a backhanded compliment, and I'm really not trying to. I think that's really nice. This is coming from somebody that was not into Penix at all coming out of the draft. But a lot of the reasons for that do not appear to still be the case. So good for the Falcons. Maybe that can still happen with McCarthy, but we're a lot earlier in McCarthy's development track because his was so arrested from missing a year of football, having to rehab a knee. Run, pass, punt asks, watching Michael Penix's game makes me wonder, why can't we run this type of offense with our QB until his confidence and the team chemistry improves? Because the coach does not want to. I think that we could I would love to see them shorten it up, but Kevin O'Connell does not want to do that. And I think we are well within our rights to say that to be critical of that. But I would love to see a little bit more of the concepts designed to get the ball out quickly. And I'm not talking about swing passes and screens and like free stuff. I'm talking about like choice. Run more choice. That's just supposed to like get open for a quick 5, right? Like everything doesn't need to be an explosive. And I've had this critique of Kevin O'Connell for years, and it's never changed. I have absolutely no expectation that it's going to change again. Mr. Mayor the Fourth asks a funny one. Did the Atlanta Falcons wreck the Vikings' future with the surprise pick of Penix in 2024? Or is the general badness of the team this year enough that it wouldn't have mattered which QB we got? Yeah, I don't buy that at all. From the reports, the Vikings were pretty high on Penix, but they were higher on McCarthy. So if Penix didn't go, the Vikings still would have taken McCarthy. So I don't think that mattered at all. But if it were the case that they wanted Penix over McCarthy, again, they're in different spots on their development track. And like, I'll put it this way. If you are a fan of one of the other 5 teams, your QB better look like he's ahead of JJ McCarthy, because y'all had a whole year and JJ McCarthy hasn't had that. I've got a bunch more questions. I'll get to them next on the Locked On Vikings podcast. Today's episode of Locked On Vikings is brought to you by Mazda. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda cares so much about the details in their Japanese craftsmanship. They have their metallic accents and Napa leather upholstery. Everything from the details on the outside to the details under the hood matter. It is not that far from an NFL offense where the snap needs to be timed exactly so that the motion man is in front of the tackle, but not in front of the guard, but not in front of the tight end. Those little details matter so much and can be the difference between an explosive gain of 25 yards or catching the ball 2 yards in front of the line of scrimmage and falling out of bounds. That can be so important, and Mazda understands the importance of the details as well. With all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence through just about any season. You can make everyday drives feel like anything but. Like NFL players, they sweat every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. This episode is also brought to you by Monarch Money. If I asked you right now to name all of your financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, investments, would you be able to do that? Every little 401k you had from a job that you had 10 years ago that you forgot about, and every little stupid investment that you made that you maybe weren't even paying that attention to 30 years ago when you had $10 to spare and you thought you'd put it. Do you know where all those things are? A lot of people don't. And if you don't, that's where Monarch Money can help you out. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. It does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes to see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. Don't let financial opportunity slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off of your first year. That's 50% off of your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONNFL. Moving along with the Locked On Vikings podcast. The next question I'm taking comes from Jordan Larson, our bold prediction winner, who, by the way, said to donate to the Animal Humane Society, which I will get right on as soon as I'm done with recording this show. Also asked for a 3-month subscription to Patreon, which I can do, I think. You got to send me an email address. Jordan, send me an email to lockedonvikingspodcast@gmail.com, and I think I can do that. I got to be able to do that, right? I'm pretty sure I can do that. I'll give you both. I'll donate to the Humane Society and give you 3 months of Patreon. Absolutely. Congratulations on hitting your bold prediction. Tippy. I'm sorry. You had a question. Jordan had a question, which is, what does Jordan Addison do during these 3 weeks? So he's not allowed to be a part of things for the first couple weeks, but the third week he is allowed to take part in meetings and kind of re-ramp up. So that's what's going to be happening. Lucas asks, when do we trade for Kirk Cousins? Oh man, did I get a lot of this? Oh, when are we going to why do they regret getting rid of Sam Darnold? When are they going to trade for Cousins? What if Carson Wentz is better? Are they going to? No, they're not going to do it. I have spent this entire offseason parrying away stupid ideas for how they can potentially replace JJ McCarthy. They're not going to give up on him after 8 quarters. Look around the league, man. Look at what guys like Sam Darnold are doing in year 7 of their career. Jordan Love, year 7 of his career. Look at what people are, how different guys are in year 3, year 4, year 5. Like Mac Jones just had a good game. Giving up on quarterbacks too fast is a plague in this league, and we really need to stop calling for it. I will be plenty critical of the Vikings. I was plenty critical of the Vikings yesterday. We can be critical. There's a great hot take about this coming up, by the way, later in the show. We can be critical without being overreactionary and without being panicky. We can say that was bad without calling for someone to be fired over it. Just say you got to do better next time. Trading for Kirk Cousins would be terrible. The Vikings don't have the money for that. Taking on the money from the Falcons would be insane. And by the way, he's benched. You want to bench JJ McCarthy for someone else who got benched? We already have a guy that loves to get benched on the team, and his name is Carson Wentz. Why would we get a different guy that loves to be benched? Why would we do that? Curtis Nelson, it's like, I don't understand. You guys got to stop living in the past, man. Are you going to suggest to me Teddy Bridgewater next? Or maybe Case Keenum? Or maybe Sam Bradford? Dante Culpepper? Like, do you have any ideas of your own to share, or is it just guys you remember from before? Curtis Nelson says, would you please explain the rule where the umpire stands behind the center preventing the ball to be snapped? So a lot of people were confused about what the substitution was, but what I understand is, as an offense, if you sub with like 30 seconds left on the play clock because the sideline is disorganized and the play call was late or whatever, if the huddle is late and the substitution is late, the defense gets their time whether you're late or early in the play clock. So if you sub late, the defense can then milk it and force you to wait for the defense to sub. And the refs essentially have to give you a quote-unquote reasonable amount of time. I think they did get kind of hosed on Monday night against the Bears in a similar situation where the ref didn't spot the ball. And that's why you saw Kevin O'Connell and JJ McCarthy asking to pump up the play clock and reset it. But they didn't really argue on this one. I think the Vikings made a late substitution and the Falcons did a good job to basically milk that time because now they get to waste as much of the Vikings time as possible. And the umpire says, nope, you got to wait. If you subbed, they get to sub and you have to wait for it. And if you're running out of time, well, too bad. You should have started this earlier. Sam Hughesby asks, is Jalen Redmond a realistic option as a Harrison Phillips replacement, or is he destined as a rotational guy? Well, so he's not playing that role. It's been like Hargrave and Allen playing like the actual zero tech role. But Jalen Redmond had another pretty good game, I thought. I think that dude's just kind of good at football, man. I think he's just a player. I don't know. I don't think he's just a rotational guy for sure. I think he actually played pretty well. The least jaded Vikings fan says, with the news of McCarthy's ankle injury hot off the presses, we are now about to face the Bengals with Carson Wentz at QB. Can things get much worse than this? If so, how? Oh, buddy. Oh, honey. It can always get worse. Why would you ask that? Of course it can get worse. And the great part about it is you never get to know how. The answer to how is it going to get worse is whatever you don't expect. It's going to happen. Magic asks, Magic is an Iowa Hawkeyes fan, by the way. You should know that. Who asks, with all the Vikings injuries and Caleb Johnson's disaster kick return Sunday, is it safe to say that God himself hates me specifically for what I did on that cold autumn night in 94? Yes. New Zealand fan that doesn't think the rugby prospect will work out in the NFL. Is that an Oscar Chapman thing? I don't know what that means. He says, do you think that Max Brosmer is a better option this week at QB to give KOC a chance to modify the offense to better suit an inexperienced QB? That is an awesome theory. I love it. No, they're going to try to win the game. The NFL is like the most competitive place in the world. They do not galaxy brain these things. The number one priority is trying to win the game. And Carson Wentz, I think, if you look, I love the idea of putting in Brosmer if Wentz is like a disaster, but you got to do the veteran first. Brosmer in the preseason did a lot of exciting things, but you could tell that he was like not reading the field at the speed you need to like actually function in an offense in the regular season. And maybe McCarthy wasn't either, although that wouldn't be the diagnosis I give watching the tape. I can only know so well. Vikings fan for no reason says I'm heading to Minneapolis this Friday for my very first Vikings game on Sunday against the Bengals. Been to Minneapolis once for work, but I had no idea how much the city and US Bank Stadium would mean to me. So stoked to experience that as a fan. That is very cool. Have so much fun. That's awesome. Would love any recommendations for things to do before and after the game, places to eat, or anything I shouldn't miss while I'm there. And if you have any game day tips for a first timer, I'm all ears. I always tell people, get there early. Get there like an hour or two before kickoff. There's so much going on at the stadium. They usually have like live music on the plaza. They have shops. They have food to go try. There's stuff going down that's usually like games to play, cornhole and stuff. There's usually stuff going down that's really, really fun. So I say get up and get down there. Parking can be pretty tough if you're driving. So find a parking spot. Like it can get really expensive, or you have to park way, way, way far away. So have a plan for parking. And then go explore US Bank Stadium. There's like a museum there. There's like a lot of really fun, cool stuff to do there that you kind of wouldn't really want to like interrupt your game watching experience to do. There's not a bad seat in the house. And then have so much fun, whether they win or lose. You're out there. I hope you're going to be with people that you love and watching sports with people that you love. I mean, that's what it's all about, win or lose. The last one comes from Luigi, and I like that I like the tone of it. Luigi asks, I hate reveling in despair and pessimism. So here's a positive question for an episode that will justifiably be mostly negative. Yeah, it was. Oh boy, I deleted a lot of angry questions. There was one person that submitted like 25 questions that were like, when are we going to fire everyone? Buddy, I get that you were venting. That was the weirdest way to do it I think I've ever seen. But not Luigi. Luigi asks, why should we remain hopeful about McCarthy in the long run? Dude's 22. It's week 2. You could even do the, like, he just had a baby excuse, although I kind of doubt that really affected things too much. It's been done before. I don't know. I think like maybe he was sleep deprived or whatever, and maybe you could chalk it up to that. But I don't think that that's too valid an excuse at this level of athletic performance. But maybe that's something, you could say, well, there were all these O-line problems that weren't his fault, but they affected his performance. The offense didn't go, but it wasn't necessarily him. I think that if you're trying to write off anybody after 2 games, I mean, even guys that I didn't like coming out of the drafts when they had a bad couple of games, writing them off is dumb. I'm sorry, you're an idiot if you're writing off a player after 2 games. You've learned nothing from the last umpteen years of NFL football if you're writing off a player after 2 games. And if you're crowning him after 2 games, you haven't learned anything either, right? Like we saw Mac Jones make the playoffs his rookie year, and now he's on his 3rd team. Like it happens. It's the NFL has a way of making sure that the second you're certain about something, that thing cannot happen. We are seeing the Daniel Jones renaissance right now. And I hope that we are ushering in league-wide an era of a little more patience with QBs, maybe returning to the attitudes of the 90s where you would stick with a guy for 3-4 years as they went through the growing pains. And I hope that that's the case for like the Bears with Caleb Williams, and they're having all their growing pains, and they're having they feel way worse over there, by the way. Who is it that asked, can it get worse? It's worse elsewhere in the division, my man. Like they're having a way worse time, but I hope that the Bears stick with him and find a way to make it work and let them learn and develop a little bit more rather than writing these guys off after 4 games, Josh Rosen style. So why should we remain hopeful about McCarthy in the long run? Because we don't know about it yet. We've seen 2 games, man. We can criticize those 2 games, but that's all we've seen. I got some hot takes about exactly that, by the way. They're yours, and I will protect your anonymity. It's okay. That'll be next on Locked On Vikings. Today's episode of Locked On Vikings is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season has arrived, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. One of the questions that I didn't end up having time to get to was about what if the Vikings win 5 or less games? Well, you could go to FanDuel and get that at plus 490 right now for the Vikings to win to win under 5.5 games. You can go put your first $500 or go put your first $5 on that, or you can put your first $5 on some heavy favorite, and then you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app to then go put on the Vikings under some ridiculous win total and do a little emotional hedge. I'm never going to judge you over it. FanDuel is quick and easy, and it's the best way to add a little bit more energy to Sundays, especially if you're not that jazzed about the Vikings right now. It can make any game more exciting because suddenly you like super really care if Saquon Barkley's going to score a touchdown or not when you otherwise wouldn't care about whatever the Eagles are doing to the Chiefs. If you are ready to play, download the FanDuel app right now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. It's time for your hot takes here on the Locked On Vikings podcast, Town Hall Tuesday. The first one comes from Breaking Down in Brainerd, who says Jonathan James McCarthy is going to get the entire Vikings coaching staff and front office fired. The DEI hired GM can't escape this disaster draft pick like he has every other time. Look, man, I don't know why people want to bring up that Kwesi is black so freaking often. You guys think about this such a weird amount of the time, and you really should look in the mirror and ask why that bothers you so much. Look, I'm not accusing anybody of anything, but I think it's very good of us sometimes to check and say, hey, have I lost the plot on this? Just, look in the mirror and check. All right, honor system. Self-policing policy. Honor system, but might be time to look in the mirror because that shouldn't be bothering people as much as it is. If you think Kwesi made bad decisions, go ahead and say that. If you think that his background was perhaps inappropriate to be a GM, then say that. Say maybe we shouldn't hire guys out of the analytics department to be the GM. Okay, fine, go do that. But the DEI hire line needs to, I think, go away. I think we have enough evidence where you can make a real argument and not just a buzzword. That said, that is typically how things go. If you tie yourself to a QB and that QB flames out, you out of here. Ryan Pace, Mitch Trubisky, out of here. Ryan Poles, Caleb Williams, could be out of here. Things are looking kind of rough for him. A lot of GMs have gone out that way, and Kwesi would be no different. Hopeful in Hibbing says that McCarthy had a good game, all things considered. His first half stats were 8 for 11 for 111 yards and 1 interception. Have to assume he got injured pretty early in the second half, and given that, the fact that he was able to play through the injury is pretty notable. Please let me cope. I mean, look, it's a hot take, okay? You can have your hot take, but that's a pretty hot take. I mean, a lot of stuff went really bad for McCarthy. Like I said, there was the one sack I can blame on him. I think both of the interceptions you can reasonably blame on him, the first one on him, either him or Naylor. And I think the fact that ball was a little bit late, it was a little bit inside, and Naylor, I think, got kind of bullied at the top of the route. So it's kind of both of them. But you could at least make an argument. And then the second one, it was clearly a bad play. I think he saw a flag and thought it was a free play when the flag was on the Vikings. You can't do that, man. That's terrible. That's absolutely horrific and awful. And I don't think that honestly, I don't know if you would feel the high ankle sprain that bad. You're so hopped up on adrenaline, and if you get taped, they give you maybe a little something to help you on the sideline. Many such cases, stories have been told. And then suddenly you don't feel anything. I don't think I can blame the ankle. I don't think. I'm just not that interested in making excuses. It's okay. We can say he just played bad. He had a bad game. Go do better next time. It's a long season. But I don't think we need to say that the game secretly wasn't bad. But you can cope. It's the hot take segment. Stirring the Pot in Stillwater says, I can't wait to see Wentz flame on, and then everyone will question JJ, and the media would want to create this whole drama. This is so Viking, so fun, so surprising, so painful. Yeah, the hot take is enjoying that. Here's the deal, and this is a question a bunch of people ask some version of, like, what if Carson Wentz plays really well? Will they bench JJ McCarthy? What do you mean, what if Carson Wentz will play really well? What? Are you hearing yourself? What you're going to get from Carson Wentz is what we've always seen from Carson Wentz. He's going to be pretty cavalier with the football. He's going to show some talent and make some really cool plays, but ultimately you're going to have enough bad stuff in there where you're not going to be able to feel this. And again, we really can't live in a world where we're moving on from these guys after 8 quarters. I just can't do that. I can't go there with you. Dooming in Duluth says, Carson Wentz is going on a Josh Dobbs legacy run, and by the time we're facing the Eagles, national media will be asking, do we really want to bench Carson Wentz? This is kind of the same one. But the national media will be annoying about it. Some of them have a real strong vendetta against J.J. McCarthy for some reason. You know who they are. Okay, the only person, the 14-yard line that tackled Danny Dimes, who is a longtime question asker, and I did call you by your real name because I think this is an awesome hot take, and I want to end with it. And I'm reading most of it. It's really long. But it starts with, we need to take a freaking chill pill. J.J. McCarthy is 22 and has played 2 career NFL games. His outlook is too doom and gloom and not positive enough. And I think it's because it's our first rookie QB in over a decade. We have the benefit of existing data when we're evaluating a team's future with a veteran QB. We know what Kirk Cousins is. We know what Sam Darnold is, even though that's kind of a weird one. We know what Carson Wentz is. We do not have this with J.J. McCarthy. We need to recalibrate. The process is correct, and adversity is part of the process. It's what makes the juice worth the squeeze. There's beauty in it. You can critique someone while maintaining positivity. A dose of blind optimism is an essential ingredient in the recipe of being a sports fan. You had me until that last one. I don't know if blind optimism is what I want, but I do super think that you're cooking with you can critique someone while maintaining a positivity. This is, I think there's a disconnect that I don't know what it is about sports fans where they cannot criticize something without also demanding that something be removed. We can't say bad call ref without being like, that ref should be fired. I don't know why we always make that leap. You can't say, oh man, that lineman blew a block. Can't do that next time. You have to say, you got to bench that guy. Backups got to be better, right? There are times when I say, man, surely the backup is better, right? Like I'm even theorizing that Walter Rouse is better than Justin School, but even that, I'm not like super sure about. And I think we're seeing this in a big way with J.J. McCarthy. You saw a quarterback play one bad game, and you're ready to start thinking that a proven piece of crud like Carson Wentz is better? That's how much patience you had? And I know our patience was tested because we had to wait a whole extra year, but guess what? That's sports, man. There's a lot of waiting. There's a lot of hoping people develop and get better at things. You started your job. Were you good at it day one? Probably not. There's a learning curve to everything. And even if there isn't, we don't think enough as problem solvers. We only think about problem eliminators. All you have is a knife. Everything just looks like something you can cut away, and soon enough, you won't have anything left. NFL teams aren't pieces of fruit that you cut away the bruised part and the rest of the thing is fine now. You got to figure out how to fix problems. And I find football to be so much more of a beautiful sport if you look at it and say, oh, hey, the drop back depth is a little bit too deep. I bet if you shorten that up, problems will go away. Hey, you snapped that ball a little bit late and it messed with the timing. I bet if you fix that, I think that's so much better than looking at it like you're in the Madden franchise mode and you're like adjusting the little player cards to see if you can get the OVR to go up. I don't know. Maybe I'm on an island there. Maybe everybody just wants to play fantasy football with the NFL, but I don't know. I like to engage with the sport as it is. I will talk to you all tomorrow. And as always, Skol.